You really gotta sit there and scratch right there, right where I have to stand. That's where you choose to. You got this whole room. That's where you choose to scratch. Kenjaku will be the final villain in this series, and might actually be a cursed spirit, maybe. Kenjaku's presence within the series of Jujutsu Kaisen has been one of the most mysterious yet chaotic things that have happened to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. If not for Kenjaku, everything that has happened right now would not have happened. Like, seriously, sit down and actually figure that out, because that is legitimately true. Everything that has happened so far since the series started wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Kenjaku, genuinely. But right now, that's not important. Instead, I'm here to feed you my crackpot theory that Kenjaku's actually a cursed spirit, and that's why his main goal is to turn everything and everyone in humankind into one mega mutant monster curse, purely just because he's curious to see what that shit looks like. Which, I mean, so am I. Am I Kenjaku? So let's start with Exhibit A. Kenjaku's brain. No human brain in history looks like that. It doesn't have a mouth. No human brain in history has a fucking mouth. Like, seriously, if this dude turns out to be an actual human being, I want that shit explained ASAP, because that motherfucker's brain has a literal mouth. And furthermore, this mouth on this brain doesn't even look human either. It's not like a normal mouth. It looks like a rodent's mouth or something like that. And when you compare it to other mouths within the series, it fits more towards the curse's mouths than it does the humans. And also, shout out to the Kagane on Twitter for pointing this out. Shout out, Liv, you're a crackpot theorist just like me. But his mouth actually looks like the bottom of Maki's sword. So yeah, Kenjaku's brain is definitely not human, or it's been altered in some way, shape, or form. My next point here is that if you haven't already subscribed, you should, because studies show that 72% of you aren't actually subscribed, which means you're missing out on a massive PP energy buff. What are you doing? Get it together. The next point here is that throughout the series, Kenjaku has only ever been shown with stitches on his head, meaning we have yet to see Kenjaku's original body, and we know he can only take over bodies of the dead, basically. And Kenjaku has been known to mess around with death like a lot. He's literally responsible for creating the Curse Womb death patents. They have death literally in their name, and the process of making them is genuinely horrific. I suggest you go and reread on those chapters and read between the lines, because it's horrific. Kenjaku is really one fucked up dude. To further add on to this point, if Sukuna is someone who is able to take over a body and make that body his vessel, I think it'd be safe to assume that Kenjaku as a case could do that very same thing. And to add even more credibility to this crackpot theory here, Kenjaku taught Sukuna how to become a cursed object, which makes me wonder, how the hell would a human know how to do this? That feels like it would be something that would be within a cursed spirit's capabilities, and it feels like that would be something that they would have within their arsenal. There's also the point of Kenjaku seeking out Geto's body. Kenjaku literally admitted to Gojo during the Shibuya arc that he coveted Geto's body for himself, and I believe the reason was to eliminate the only person in the series who would have been able to absorb him and take control of him. And one of the reasons I think this is due to the stipulations of Curse Spirit manipulation, which states that if a user is 2 or more grades higher than the Curse Spirit, they can take control over that Curse Spirit with no questions asked, no issues. And I would be willing to bet that Kenjaku's freaky little brain manlet Curse Spirit thingamabob right here is pretty damn weak on its own, which is why it can only prey on the bodies of the dead, unlike Sukuna, who can just forcefully take over your body because he's fucking built different. But once it gets into a body, he then has access to all of that body's cursed energy and techniques, which buffs it incredibly. Sort of like Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that motherfucker on his own ain't doing shit. But once he's in the suit, he then becomes a real serious problem to deal with. But then I might hear you say,
but wait, if Kenjaku's curse your spirit, then reverse curse technique wouldn't work on him. He'd get handled instantly.
And to that, I say, are we really so sure about that one? Because as far as I'm aware, in the entire series, we've only actually seen one person use RCT to exercise a curse, and that was Yuzuru Kotsu. And that curse was just a curse by itself. However, if a curse was inside a human body, for example, Kenjaku, then that might change things. Let's say the human body could act as armor to protect against the RCT, and the only way to get rid of Kenjaku would be to knock off the top of his noggin and then hit it with RCT directly. A curse inhabiting a human body would be difficult to get rid of in a similar way to Gojo struggling to identify poisons with his RCT, and we know the curses have been often referred to of poisonous before. For example, Sukuna, the king of curses and poisons. I'm pretty sure it was also stated at one point that if anyone else ate a curse, it would poison them. And then finally, my final point on why I believe Kenjaku may be a curse is that Kenjaku is the only person in this entire series we've seen casually walking through the curse realm well. And the only other person in the series we've actually seen mention and even acknowledge its existence altogether. Jaku's been alive for a very, very, very long time. He's not died, and he's just been body hopping, and I genuinely am convinced that this dude is just a cursed spirit at this point. I feel like no human would be able to do what he has done. Even Sukuna himself had to be sealed away as a cursed object and waited for another vessel to consume him before he could come out. Kenjaku, on the other hand, feels different, but that is my absolute crackpot theory on why Kenjaku is actually a cursed spirit, and he will most likely be the final villain of the series, but that's a video for another day because that motherfucker is cooking up some crazy shit. I just know it. But that is everything from me. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, peace.